This is the first of what's likely to be multiple follow-ups to a video we did earlier today about the bombshell national security story of the Trump administration accidentally leaking highly sensitive war plans to a journalist in what has been a devastating humiliation for the Trump administration. Well, Donald Trump was just confronted about that story by reporters on camera, and he visibly panicked and did everything in his power to cut the question off and deny any responsibility for it. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, this is the biggest national security story, certainly in modern times, if not ever. Something which makes the Hillary email scandal look quaint by comparison. And quite frankly, Democrats should pounce on this and treat it like the Republicans treated the Hillary email story, because this is objectively worse. But I want to play this clip of Donald Trump being confronted for the first time on camera about this story. Watch his demeanor, watch how he answers the question, and watch how desperate he is to move on to something else.
Your reaction to the story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis?
Right.
Well, it couldn't have been very effective, because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time. Anybody else?
Your reaction.
Anybody else have any, like, literally any other thing to talk about? Pathetic. Classic Trump. Deny, deny, deny. I had nothing to do with it. I mean, what are you talking about? The Atlantic. I mean, you guys suck. I mean, the Atlantic's failing. I mean, yeah, exactly. I know nothing about it. Anybody else, please? Anything else? Well, Trump is being roasted about this, and rightly so, because, of course, this happened on his watch. This is his administration, and he deserves all the blame for it, right? Imagine if the shoe were on the other foot and this had happened under President Biden's watch. Imagine what the stories would have been like. Oh, my God, Trump is asleep at the wheel, or Biden, excuse me, is asleep at the wheel. Biden has no idea what's going on. What the hell's going on in the Biden White House? Well, by the same sort of logic that MAGA tried to apply to Biden, this should also apply to Donald Trump, and thus he's getting roasted. Friend of the show, Wajah Ali, says, what's worse is that he has no idea, allegedly, about the story, which makes it even worse and more terrifying. Like, bro, why don't you know? If you hate the Atlantic, according to the Lincoln Project, well, if you hate the Atlantic, then why is your Secretary of Defense texting them top secret war plans? How has he not been informed about a cabinet-level breach of sensitive information regarding a military option? Or is this another symptom of the Putinization of U.S. politics with the reluctance to tell the boss bad news? Department of Defense Secretary texts of war plans to a reporter, and this guy is just like, yeah, no fucking clue, man. Beats me. We are living in the most unserious timeline. The president knows nothing about it. Actually, he's a liar. We know this already. We are fucked. LOL, on top of national security as always. If this goober isn't aware that his VP, his chief of staff, his national security advisor, secretary of defense, director of national security, CIA director, and Marco Rubio plus Stephen Miller are setting up group chats leaking classified info, then who is actually at the wheel of this disaster? Is the president the last to know? What else does his cabinet keep from him? Babe, wake up. He did the meme again. It's devastating for Trump. He always denies not knowing anything going on in his administration. Makes you wonder, puppet? And we could keep going on like this. This is devastating for Trump. He's getting brutally roasted, and rightly so. And quite frankly, this is all that reporters should be asking Trump about for the foreseeable future. Because again, this is Hillary Clinton's emails times 1,000, times 1,000,000, orders of magnitude worse. As a reminder, just in case you didn't watch my first video, here's what happened. Trump National Security Advisor accidentally added the Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg to a group chat about secret war plans. Trump National Security Advisor Mike Waltz accidentally added Jeffrey Goldberg, editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, to a group chat in which the Principals Committee, the heads of the top American national security agencies, discussed plans to strike Houthi rebels in Yemen earlier this month. And we read the entire story in that previous video, so we're not going to go over the excerpts. We're just going to read the summaries. Over the following days, the members of the group chat debated whether to take action against the Houthis, with Vice President J.D. Vance counseling against such a decision and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth arguing in favor of it. And we'll turn to J.D. Vance in just a second because, again, like buried in this national security breach bombshell is also what J.D. Vance had to say about Donald Trump's assessment of the situation, which is also really embarrassing for both Trump and Vance. We'll get to that. Goldberg went on to reveal that Hegseth discussed potentially dangerous classified information in the chat. As for comment, Brian Hughes, a spokesperson for the Trump National Security Council, told Goldberg this appears to be an authentic message change, and we're reviewing how an inadvertent number was added to the chain. This thread is a demonstration of the deep and thoughtful policy coordination between senior officials. The ongoing success of the Houthi operation demonstrates that there were no threats to troops or national security. Well, that's not true, right? Because a thing can be successful and still be threatened, right? A threat doesn't actually have to manifest. That's the whole point of a threat, right? That's a really stupid comment. I think it's also hilarious that they want to use this national security breach of unprecedented proportions as proof that the Trump administration is being thoughtful. Really, really dumb. So the part about J.D. Vance I really want to focus on. J.D. Vance criticizes Trump in leaked war plans group chat. Not sure the president is aware of how inconsistent this is. J.D. Vance criticized the judgment of his boss, Donald Trump, in a leaked group chat in which Vance and several other senior Trump administration officials discussed the possibility of American military strikes against Houthi rebels in Yemen. Let's see. At one point, after National Security Advisor Mike Walls informed the group that they had been sent information regarding the administration's plans over email, and Vance expressed concerns over the decision. Quote, team, I'm out for the day doing an economic event in Michigan, but I think we're making a mistake, replied the vice president. 3% of U.S. trade runs through the Suez Canal. 40% of European trade does. There's a real risk that the public doesn't understand this or why it's necessary. The strongest reason to do this, as POTUS said, is to send a message. Quote, again, Vance continuing, I'm not sure the president is aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. There's a further risk that we see a moderate to severe spike in oil prices. I'm willing to support the consensus of the team and keep these concerns to myself, but there's a strong argument for delaying this a month, doing the messaging work on why this matters, seeing where the economy is, etc. So let's pause right there. So that means J.D. Vance, let's dial it back. Let's rewind the clock a bit, just a minute. You may recall that J.D. Vance, author of Hillbilly Elegy, right, and a conservative, criticized Donald Trump back in 2015 and 2016, referred to him as opiate, referred to him as, Hitler, actually. He actually used the phrase Hitler, that Donald Trump was very much like Hitler. And that was actually unique. Actually, very few Democrats have done that, but you have his current vice president famously publicly referring to Trump as a Hitler-like figure. Stunning stuff, right? And then, of course, over the years, what did J.D. Vance do despite his various critiques of Donald Trump? Well, he changed his tune, right? Because it was politically expedient. And that's what Republicans, unfortunately do when it comes to Donald Trump, like Marco Rubio, like Lindsey Graham and others. They take a principled stance against Trump, recognizing him for what he is, but then also recognizing, oh shit, he's in power now, he's in charge. I guess I better bend the knee, okay? So that's exactly what we saw with J.D. Vance. But what's interesting about this is another example of J.D. Vance having very different opinions about Trump and Trump's opinions and Trump's judgment and Trump's decisions, and effectively filtering them. Like, oh, yeah, Donald Trump is perfect and a genius, and I support him on everything. Well, actually, sounds like you privately disagree quite a bit with principled, well-reasoned positions, right? And you sacrifice all of that for the sake of political expedience. I'm willing to shut up, guys, and not tell anybody, including you all and Donald Trump, about it. But I mean, I just really disagree on this, and it's a sign of his weakness that he doesn't bring these concerns to Trump himself. So Hegseth basically shuts him up. VP, I understand your concerns and fully support you raising with POTUS important considerations, most of which are tough to know how they play out. I think the messaging is going to be tough no matter what. Nobody knows who the Houthis are, which is why we need to stay focused on, one, Biden failed, right, because they want to blame Biden for everything. Number two, Iran funded. Waiting a few weeks or months does not fundamentally change the calculus. Immediate risks on waiting. This leaks and we look indecisive. Israel takes action first, or Gaza ceasefire falls apart, and we don't get to start this on our own terms. We can manage both. We are prepared to execute, and if I had a final go or no-go vote, I believe we should. Quote, if you think we should do it, let's go. I just hate bailing out Europe again, Vance said after Hegseth said what he said. And then, again, as Mediaite notes, Vance's comments about Trump not being aware of his inconsistent messaging are notable given the pair's past. While he eventually developed into one of Trump's most reflexive allies, J.D. Vance was once one of his most strident critics. So, again, there you have it, is J.D. Vance self-censoring even when it comes to giving Donald Trump advice that he thinks Trump needs. But I want to play one other clip here because it's a lot of fun. And this is actually the spokesperson, Tammy Bruce, former Fox News host, much like Pete Hegseth, being asked about this as well, because she's speaking on behalf of Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio was also in this text thread. So watch her also desperately try to cover for this.
Well, why was the cabinet secretaries in the National Security Cabinet discussing a potential military operation on Signal, which is a public app? And why didn't they notice a phone number that was not part of their group? And how concerned is the secretary about the implications of this?
Well, I have two very short things to say to you. First is that we will not comment on the Secretary's deliberative conversations. And secondly, that you should contact the White House.
But in this regard, this was a very extensive series of conversations involving, a very important military action. And the Secretary of State is the leader of foreign policy. Shouldn't he have an opinion about this?
Well, from this podium, I'm not going to comment, and never would I comment in any framework, the Secretary's deliberative conversations in any regard. All right.
Are you
Yes,
concerned about
Daphne.
the
And also wanting to, again, cut the question short. It's so telling. And again, Democrats have an obligation to pounce on this. We're going to cover the reaction overall in a separate video, but I really want to focus on this. The Trump administration's immediate response has been lackluster. They know this is potentially politically damaging. Donald Trump is desperate to distance himself from this as much as possible, but you can see him visibly die inside when the question is posed, and he desperately wants to cut it off. Great stuff. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.